All right. Are you ready? I'm ready.
I'm ready.
Let's do this thing. Okay. So thanks everybody for being here. I'm here with my friend Paige McPheely. She is CEO at Base. And for a little bit of background, we're talking about hiring an EA, working with an EA, partnering with an EA, getting the help that you need. Regardless of whether or not you feel like it's for you or like it's time for you. I've had a whole bunch of reservations my entire professional career. I've never had an EA ever. Wanted one? Yes. Longed for one, envied people that were working with EAs? Absolutely. But everything from when I was a VP at a large global company, did not have the pleasure of working with an EA then. I was a CEO at a startup for 5 years, did not have the pleasure of working with an EA then. I'm back on my own as a solopreneur, and all kinds of thoughts in my head about like, well, obviously I'm just on my own. I don't need an EA now. I absolutely do. And thanks to my friend Paige, who talked me through a lot of these reservations and hesitations and doubts, and sometimes even head trash around why I didn't need or didn't deserve to work with an EA. Now I'm getting started with one. Like literally, thanks to Paige, I got matched with an EA that I'm very, very, very excited about. And we're getting started like this week. So that's what we're going to talk about is working with an EA. So before we jump in, Paige, can you tell me a little bit about you and Base and how you're serving crazy people like me?
Yes, absolutely. So hello, everybody. My name is Paige. Almost 11 years ago now, a good friend and I, my co-founder Casey, we started what was back then one of the only onshore remote executive assistant staffing agencies. Fast forward now, almost 11 years, we've got a software component where we've got our own bespoke app for EAs. We also have a whole bunch of internal tools that help us make sure that we're finding the right EAs when people come in looking for an EA, because all EAs are great, but not every partnership is created equally. So we've built some tools for that. And so what we are now is kind of this full stack assistant solution. And we just try to get busy people who really, really need the support of an assistant, a flexible, tech-backed option.
Yes. And one of the things that is all over your website and you say all the time is like, you don't just need an EA, you need the right EA. And so you do an exceptional job of actually matching people. It's not just like, yep, add to cart. There's this whole, as I just went through it, this whole matching process to align personalities and work styles and needs and areas of specialty and skills and talents. And I think that's pretty great. So
yeah, it's a little bit more. It is an art, but we've tried to put as much science as we can behind it to make sure that we're actually knowing who you are and what you're looking for, and maybe even what you don't want, and then putting it together.
Yeah, and you've been doing this for a decade, like before virtual EA was a thing, before remote work was really a thing, before a lot of this was a thing.
Yeah, we've been around for a while.
Yeah. Okay, so you know what you're doing, and I'm excited to get into it. So tell me that I'm not alone in my weirdness. I mean, I'm alone in a lot of my weirdness, but in my weirdness about just having this thought like, well, I don't need an EA, or I'm not there yet. Maybe like when I close this round of funding, or when I reach this milestone of revenue, or when we have this many people on the team, or when my inbox is this bad, or I'm getting this number of calendar requests every day. Tell me that that's not just me. Do other people face that too?
Yes, absolutely. I think I've heard every reason under the sun at this point of why we talk ourselves out of getting the help we need. I mean, I think just culturally, we don't really accept the notion of it's okay to ask for help. I need help. We all need help. So there's a lot of like, I could do it my own. It's better. It's easier if I just do it myself. I don't need the help. But at the same time, working with an EA is also a bit of a status symbol. You've made it. And I think in our brains, we kind of think like, no, I haven't made it yet. I just need to achieve this milestone. I need to do this next thing. I need to earn this much. But we're rarely looking at the flip side of that coin, which is how are you slowing yourself down without asking for help, for carrying all of these things on your own shoulders when really what you should be doing is delegating as much as you can and doing that as smartly as you can. So we've heard everything from it's too expensive, I can't afford it, which we can get into that a little bit later.
Yep.
It's easier if I do it myself. It's a luxury that I don't yet deserve. Probably more common than anything else is like, I don't even know where to start. I'm already underwater. This is why I need an EA and I have no idea where to start. And we get a lot of people coming to us like that, where they are drowning. They're drowning. They have no idea where to start. And they just want to hit the easy button and have EAs presented to them, which is, our specialty. And in fact, we get a lot of people who come to us and they are pretty desperate for help. And it's not at all unheard of for them to say, my significant other or my partner has said, you must get help. So it's reached that kind of over the top drowning level. I think also now that software is as great as it is, we as leaders tend to just cobble together this suite of tools. So I keep talking about how much I love this tool Granola for note taking, and it's fantastic, and it's got
Which
AI. And
I do too now, thanks to you.
yes, it is. It's amazing. It's amazing, but it doesn't replace my assistant. What it is really helpful for is sending the recaps to my assistant after the fact, so that now I'm not having to do the verbal download on all the meetings, because stuff gets missed, and then she doesn't have information she needs. But anyway, we cobble together these suite of tools, but then that's just another thing that we have to manage. And so usually when people can lay aside these things and realize any of these gender roles or the cultural expectations of why we don't deserve an EA, put that aside, then it makes a whole bunch of sense.
Yeah, for sure. And so what we're going to do is, starting this week, we actually have 5 weeks. So five of these where we're going to talk about, yes, you do deserve one. You do deserve support. You do deserve to have a partnership with somebody who can support you and work with you and help you be more effective in the areas that you and only you should be working on. And then next week, we're going to talk about, okay, cool, you convinced me. How do I find one? How do I find the right person? What does that look like? Then we're going to talk about delegating, which is something that I remember the first time you and I talked about it, because I was like, well, I don't know, like I live with my calendar and I just don't know what it would look like to turn that over to somebody else. And at the time I was going through like fundraising and stuff. And I was like, I just don't know if I can let somebody into like really confidential stuff. And you're like, Lindsay, there's like 1,000 things you can delegate. And I was like, huh? So we're gonna talk about that too, like all these other different things you can delegate. And we're gonna wrap it up with, cool, you're working with someone, maybe even right now you're working with an EA. It's like, okay, how do you optimize that time? How do you optimize that support that you have? So that's what we're going to do. But today, since we're talking about you deserve that kind of support, we're going to talk about some of those pushbacks. So you've gone through a lot of them. Like, let's one by one kind of just dispel those myths and kick out that head trash around, like, first and foremost, like, I can't afford it, right? So and we're not even getting into like bases, pricing, and packaging or anything like that, but it's just like the conception of like, oh, I just can't afford it, obviously. Like,
yeah,
what say you there?
I know. Well, we spend money on so many different things. And so, yes, you can go out and spend a fortune on a really, really wonderful assistant. But you also might just need a little bit of support. You might need a quarter of a really, really great assistance time. And so it's about being smart of where are you investing those dollars, and you're putting them in a place where you're able to account for what's your hourly rate. And Lindsay, you know this now as a solopreneur very well, of what is your time worth, because you are your product. Yeah. And so should you be spending hours doing all of these various tasks when you could be out there charging your hourly rate while you have an assistant do those things? So yes, if you're not currently paying for the partnership of an EA and that relationship, then it is an added expense. But oftentimes you find that you're more productive, you make more money, and you can also either remove some apps, remove some redundancies in your team. It's not as expensive as you might think, or as complicated.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and that's both looking back to founder CEO days when I had even small team, whereas now I have no team, but like where there was a team, thinking about the way I would spend my days quite often because I didn't have this support. I mean, I was spending a lot of time in addition to the things that I and only I could do, I was working the super, super, super long hours because I was rearranging my calendar and I was sending all of the follow-up emails. And board prep was just monumental. I mean, you know how much work that is. And I was doing it all myself. And then now, without a team, you're right. Like it's literally, it's only me. And the amount of time, if I spend any time doing some of those tasks that somebody else could help me with, it's literally time that I could be doing something where I was trading time for dollars and, or at least doing something, more effective with my time. So yes, couldn't agree more. And one of the things that you do at Base is what you talked about, like that fractional or part of a full-time role. So you can get, which I know everybody's talking about fractional these days, which is really great, because that conversation has started where it's like, you don't need to have somebody 40 hours a week every single week. You can have somebody come in and focus on these specific areas.
Exactly right. Yeah, exactly right. And a great EA can do more in 10 hours a week than a lot of people would even think possible. And so it like that little bit of having that added support. And then I always think of great assistants, they kind of point the people that they support like an arrow, because we're aligned on our goals and our priorities, and I know where you need to be focusing, and so I'm going to help direct you, and so that the executive or the leader can just like go off in their direction and not have to worry about all the things that are around them.
Yeah. Okay. Let's also talk about it being a luxury. I don't deserve it yet. I'm just a solopreneur. It's just me. I only have a couple clients, or, we haven't even raised Series A yet. Like, how am I going to go to my board and tell them that I need an EA? Or, we haven't hit this whatever revenue milestone yet. Like, how could I possibly justify having an EA? So how do you come up against that argument where it's like, I don't deserve it. I'm not there yet. It's a luxury that I can't afford yet.
Yeah, I think it's a lot of the same kind of reasoning. The ROI is so strong, and you look at your hourly rate, you explain that to your board, which I've done. And EA was, of course, one of the first hires we made when we were launching Base. And the board was like, that's not typical in a pre-seed company. Like, absolutely not. But when I'm looking at the force multiplication and the impact of adding leverage downstream in my role and what that can do upstream, is pretty substantial. So it's head trash that, like, oh my gosh, how can I even go and pitch this case? I'm going to look selfish. What is that going to say to the rest of my team? They all need things too, but I'm devoting this resource to myself. So I get all of that, but an EA doesn't just come in and solely support one person. They can be so additive across the board to your team, and your board will see that, your team will see that. And I think because you talk about how we're hearing so much about fractional, this idea of outsourcing and fractional support, thankfully, this has been really good for us. It's just becoming more normal. People are used to it. They're used to thinking like, okay, I can delegate these various bits of my business out. And so that too is like we've normalized this across all these various roles within our organization. And yet we've got this piece of head trash of like, but I don't deserve an EA. If you can set that aside, right, it's just like you do with any number of other roles.
Right. I mean, we in the very earliest days invest in a CRM because it helps us organize our information, right? Mm-hmm. Same kind of thing. And I think too, one of the things that I think we talked about a long time ago was like, look, as especially talking about founders and being scrappy and venture backed, like you weren't brought in or backed in the first place. Like nobody invested in you because you were so good at managing your calendar, or like you were so good at like email follow-up. Like sure, like maybe that was part of the first impression, but no, they're investing in you, or they're working with you, or they're supporting you because of your vision and because of your product or because of your service or because you're uniquely you and you are the one to build this ship and launch it, not manage all of the tactical little things. And so I think once you can be brave and bold to get beyond some of that head trash and start to show the results in where your focus can be, I think it starts to speak for itself.
Yeah. And we see people come in at different stages, and you remember how it's so much work to fundraise and all of the moving pieces. It's a completely different job. attached to your already
It is.
intense job.
Yeah.
But then you close the round and there is celebration, but it's brief because then you're like, okay, now we have to go do all of these things that we said we were going to do to all of our brand new investors.
Bigger, better, faster.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
And you've got to level up instantly once you close a round. So we do see a lot of people realizing that is a good turning point to bring on an assistant. They're hiring really high level experienced leaders. Those folks need assistance. The CEOs really got to step up their game. So it gets, I think that like head trash shifts as you get later stage, but my goodness, it's just going to help level you up no matter where you are, whichever stage you're in.
Yeah, and that's a huge point. You and I both raised capital, and I cannot, if you are about to raise or like thinking about raising, everybody talks about it, but like until you're in it, sometimes even after you're through it, like you have no idea how much work it is and how much it takes away from everything else. Like from any other semblance of running the business, it becomes your full job, and it's constant scheduling, rescheduling, outreach, reminder email, follow-up email, sending the attachment, sending the preview of the pitch, sending a follow-up of the pitch, sending all of the follow-up. I mean, it's constant times 300 pitches, and it's massive. And a lot of it is tactical stuff that somebody can help you with. Like, you deserve to have some help, and you will likely be that much more effective because it is so easy, even for the most organized and like type A of us, to miss that one follow-up email or to forget to follow up with that one really great conversation that you had. And when you have somebody that's just helping you, you're likely, I mean, how could you not be that much more effective in raising the round and closing the deal?
And Lindsay, imagine for all your rounds, had you been able to just show up for your pitches and like do your pitch, which you're great at, but just be able to show up and you're prepared, you've got the prep work done, you know that this person has been taken care of and that they feel thought of, because you've already agreed on what that system is going to look like and how you want people to feel. Just show up.
Yeah, it would have been completely different. And I did it a few times, and completely different, because there is so much like, okay, who am I talking to today? Okay, this is the background. Did I talk to them before? Where did I meet them from? Who introduced us? And like, it's a lot. And I definitely missed some follow-up, and I definitely showed up. There was one time, I think it was raising our seed round, that I absolutely showed up and talked to somebody thinking they were somebody else. Like, after the fact, I was like, I think it was okay, because I don't think I did anything that like flubbed it. But the entire time my head was speaking to this person that I was introduced to this way. And like, anyway, you can avoid that. It's avoidable. Okay. So this is one too that we already talked, I said to you so many times. I was like, but Paige, I wouldn't even know where to start. I have no idea where to start. Like, I'm so busy. I am already working a million hours. I'm already completely exhausted. I'm already overwhelmed. Like, I couldn't possibly have somebody come in and be like, where do you want me to start? Because I'd be like, I don't know. It's easier for me to just continue to be overwhelmed.
Yeah. I don't know where to start. I don't have the time to find an EA. I don't have the time to onboard an EA. Totally. And you don't really, and it's not, someone doesn't just show up and know everything. So it does take work. It's a two-way partnership. And in fact, we're pretty protective of our EAs as well, because it's a relationship. It goes two ways. And so, yes, there is some effort that you need to put out when you're getting the support of an assistant, but there's a right way to do it and there's a wrong way to do it. And a lot of us, especially if we could really use the help of an EA, are maybe not the best at some of the things that EAs tend to excel at too. And so it can be hard to know, like, I don't even know how to tell you this because I don't have a good process. I'm just flying by the seat of my pants. But what we've found is that pretty much all of us know what the term EA means. We know it's executive assistant. If not, we know what assistants are. But I think a lot of us have an antiquated view of what an assistant really is, and certainly what they can do. And the number of times we get asked the question of like, wait, can an EA build decks? Or can they do XYZ personal thing for me? Like, yes, Yes, we've had so much fun exploring and understanding the various ways that our clients and EAs have worked together, because the sky's the limit. It's not just someone sitting there and doing your calendar and managing your inbox, because we hear that all the time too, of like, I don't think I have enough to give an EA. And you
Mm-hmm.
do. And ideally, you're able to bring in an EA who knows what the hell they're doing, and they can come in and tell you how to work with them, so that you do the work of making sure you've got a good match, and then you've got somebody guiding you the rest of the way.
Yeah. Well, and I'm excited. So again, this is part of what we call this is building in public, because I'm literally, I'm in it. Like I'm going through this too. Like Paige has convinced me. It only took 5 years, and here we are. And I just got matched with my EA, and I'm very excited because I'm launching a show in January, a new like show and podcast. And I was like, well, actually, like I know how to do this. I have done podcasts and shows for myself and other companies hundreds of times, and I know what to do. And I was like, wait, that's where I need help. Like I know how much work it is to send all the guest invites and make sure everybody has like the quick reminder and make sure that there's follow-up emails going out and thank yous and hey, your show is live. Things that are still very personal and very me, but you times that times 20 guests in a couple of months and it's a lot of work. And so you found me somebody who is like has their own podcast and like is really great at branding and is really great at like knows this whole stuff as a podcast expert. And so I'm excited to not just get the support but actually learn and um, have it be kind of a two-way, like you said, it's a two-way street, not just with like, hey, here's where I need help, but like me saying, hey, here's what I know I need help with. Here's the outcome that I want. And I'm looking forward to her coming to me and being like, have you thought about this? Because here's what I'm doing with my show. And that's, like you said, totally changing the definition of what I've always thought an EA was. Without really thinking about it, it is, you get these kind of antiquated ideas in your head. It's like, well, I don't need that. I don't need somebody to just sit outside my office and take my calls. Like I don't even have an office. I'm not getting any calls. But like, yeah, to get that kind of support on doing something that is kind of tactical and there's a lot of moving parts.
Yeah, yeah. I've learned so much from my assistant. Um, and also then the occasional times where I've stepped into her realm and totally messed things up. And so it's really, really great to have somebody who's another set of eyes and ears and a fresh perspective to be like, have you thought about doing it this way? And the more the more people that you have in your corner rooting you on, just the better.
Mm-hmm.
So I can't wait for you to get it started.
I'm so excited. And we'll share every step of the way over the next couple of weeks, like how it's going. So, okay. Another thing that you and I talk a lot about, both female founders, like you're still running a venture backed company. I've been there. Like, let's talk about like gender roles and like how that comes into play. Cause I think it absolutely does. I mean, we're talking about this, like, I don't deserve it. I don't like, it's a luxury I can't afford. What will people think? How has that, like, what say you there?
Yeah, yeah. I kind of mentioned this a little bit earlier of how culturally it's very difficult for us to just acknowledge that we need help. We, in a professional setting, and I think this applies to men and women, we come in and it's our job, especially as a CEO, and you've got money, like you're going into these pitches and you're saying like, I know what I'm doing. I've got it all figured out. And so it can be hard to then also be vulnerable and acknowledge that you need help. And yes, I see this for men and women, but I think it's especially hard for women. I feel it. I don't feel like I'm kind of like the stereotypical CEO that I might picture when I think of a kind of a CEO of a startup and venture backed and all of that. And like acknowledging the way that I like to work and how I like to work with my team and the support that I really need, the things that I'm not good at, that you might think a CEO in my position would be really good at, has been hard. It's been really hard and it wasn't obvious. And it's taken me a lot of years to get to that point. So I think we've glorified this notion of like, I could do it myself.
Yep.
I'm self-made. I don't need help. But it's also kind of ridiculous because it's not the way that we work as human beings. We
Yeah.
are built to live in community with one another and to help one another. And you see the cost of it elsewhere. You see it in your personal life. You and I, coincidentally, are moms of 3 boys each, and the
Yep.
juggle that you have, especially when you're in a leadership role. And mom, no matter what, both of our husbands are amazing, and they're equal parents, but it's
Mm-hmm.
still, it's different. I find that
Yeah.
I'm the only one that the school will send
Yeah.
groups to.
No
It's
matter
only
what.
mom WhatsApp group chats. There's a lot.
Uh-huh.
Like, he's here too. Why don't you invite him
Yeah.
to read or go volunteer in the classroom? So it's like, it's just more for moms, and
Yep.
feeling like we've got it all together, but no, we just need to accept and help
Yeah.
one
And I
another.
think too, and I see it changing over the last few years. There was this this notion of like, if you are a female founder, and if you're like, let's just say you're a female founder, you're a mom, you're venture backed, you're doing all these things, like you said, it's like glorified, it's glamorized to be like, and I'm doing it all myself, like, and I am folding laundry, and I'm doing the dishes, and I'm running the school pickups, and I'm raising capital, and I'm managing a team, and I'm doing QA on the product. Like, it that was glamorized, but at what cost? And I think we're starting to see the conversation shift a little bit, where it's like, no, you know what's actually brave? You know what's actually strong is pointing to the places where you have help and saying, like, I'm able to keep this plate spinning, and I'm able to focus on my priorities, and like really be present for the things that matter most in my life, because I have help in these other areas. And yes, there will be people who are like, kudos to you, that's amazing. And there will also be people, there will always be the people who say, who does she think she is? Who do they think they are? Oh, like, they don't deserve help, or like, see them talking, but like, there will be. But
Mm-hmm.
you can't continue to suffer and try to do all the things because of the few naysayers, especially knowing that your business and your life and your family and your health could be that much stronger if you just get help. Like, what are you even doing it for?
I remember really early on. So this is about 6 years ago, before we decided to launch kind of the software portion of our business, and talking with a mentor, became an investor, and he was like, this is going to be really hard. This is a new chapter, and you just need to get help. And he was talking more personally of like, order pre-cooked meals and have somebody come and help you clean your house, and it's okay to have the sitter pick up the kids from school, and
Mm-hmm.
that kind of release of like, yeah, okay, I am doing something really hard, and it is okay for me to let some of these other things go. And I still really, really struggle with that. I work with
Me
a
too.
lot of my friends are working moms outside of the house, but a lot of them aren't also.
Mm-hmm.
And like, it's just, I think on both sides, you're kind of like, oh gosh, am I making the right choice? I've got all this
Yeah.
guilt, and it's real.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. When you care about a lot of things, you're going to have guilt about, like, whenever you're focused on this thing, all the other things start to feel like they're falling, and I don't think that's necessarily true. But
Mm-hmm.
yes, so we deserve help, and it's actually strong. Like, getting help is strong. Yes. So, and then lastly, talk about when somebody tells you, I don't need an actual human being to help me, because I've got all these different tools. Like, I have, you and I were talking about granola. I think I've told like 10 people about granola, by the way. And there's lots of different like note taker apps and transcription apps and stuff as one. There's virtual like AI calendar arrangement management things, and a billion other things. So what do you say when someone's like, I don't need a person, because I have all the tools.
Right. Maybe those tools are doing some of the scheduling for you, or they're automating things. And again, these tools out there are completely amazing. But then you're just handling the logistics of tools, and you're having to then deal with all this information in all these different places, and still synthesize it and pull the context together, and then figure out what the heck do you actually do with any of that. And we've had a lot of conversations with really powerful leaders. And when we ask them, like, what is the benefit that your assistant provides to you? It's that they feel seen and supported, and they really feel like someone's got their back. And tools just don't do that for you. I just wrote a piece on LinkedIn about, and we get asked all the time, like, what about AI? Are assistants going away? And no, they're not, because of this intrinsic human need that we have to be seen and understood and supported. And you just can't replace that. So, and what you should do is get an assistant, and that assistant is going to amplify themselves with these tools. I mean, the granola is one that we keep bringing up. But my assistant doesn't necessarily need to be spending her time managing my calendar. She should be automating as much as she possibly can. And it's within her realm then to manage that suite of tools in a way that works for her. So you need an assistant with great tools. You don't need just the tools.
Right. Because again, no one's going to invest in you because you're really, really good at using tools to manage your time. Like, that's not why. And again, I mean, like, right now I'm in the midst of like trying out an AI calendar management thing. And it took me on a Sunday night, like 2 or 3 hours, while I was also doing other things and like hanging out with my kids and stuff, like in the background. And it was like, well, when do you want it to hold time for this? And what's your preference for that? And how about what's this contingency plan? I'm like, I don't know. Like, I just, and it's this, you're right. It's this added burden of like, well, now I have to manage this thing. And being able to actually talk to someone and say like, oh my gosh, next week is just crazy. I just need to find some space to work on this pitch, and to have someone be like, I got it. Let me see if I can find some space for you. Like, that's,
it's huge.
It's amazing.
It's really huge. I say this a lot, but I think this relationship is the most intimate professional relationship that exists. My assistant has access to everything, and I'm pretty open, and she's got access to my personal inbox, my personal calendar. So she's got access to a lot. And at the same time, so I'm in Europe. My family and I relocated to Spain for a year, or when our kids learn to speak Spanish, which might be a little bit longer than that. But I'm 6 hours ahead of my assistant. And so we've got an automated questionnaire essentially that pops up in Slack every morning. And the very first question is, how are you feeling today? And that way she knows right when she gets online what's going on, what's on my mental load. And we've got a bunch of other questions in there. But I've found this is a newer-ish practice for us, and I found that sitting down in the morning and being asked that question right away has been incredibly useful. And then I think to know that there's a human on the receiving end of that that's going to help adapt my day, because she's saying, how are you feeling today? And then what's on your mind? And so usually it's dozens of things. And she'll come back, and with all the information she has, she'll say, here's what I think you should be focusing on today based on these other things. And then she'll help me figure out when to do the rest. And I can't tell you how amazing that is. It's amazing.
That's incredible. Seriously. I mean, I think about the number of times, I mean, sure, now I'm a solopreneur, like I'm on my own and I love that idea now, but also the number of times where you're in it and you've got this whole team and there's high highs and there's very low lows, and have somebody check in with you that way. And it's like, how are you doing? No, like, how are you doing? And know that it's not just a prompt. It's not just AI asking you. It's not a journal entry. It's an actual human being where there will be consequences. And help, it's like, oh, okay, you're feeling really overwhelmed, or you're like super, super happy. Let's talk about, cool, how do we, like, you've got a lot of energy. How did we get here? Is it because of some result that we had last week? That's so great.
It's pretty amazing. And in tandem with, like, gosh, you're in 7 hours of internal meetings this week, and how can we, like, it's so fantastic to feel like somebody is really looking out for me. And there are a lot of things with leadership that were really surprising to me. And I kind of talked a little bit of like my own evolution of how hard it was to let certain things go. But it's really, really lonely. I heard a quote once where the job of the leader is to point to this mountain over there and say, hey, everybody see that mountain over there? That's where we're going. And everybody's going to the mountain. And in your head, you're like, I really hope that's the right mountain. I don't know if that's the right mountain.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think about that all the time, because there are only so many people that you can let into that circle of like, is that the right mountain? And having that confidant and assistant, and that extra support and boost to help you figure out, is that actually the right mountain, has been everything.
That's huge. And I think anybody who has been there or is in it right now, like it's hard to explain just how deep that is until you're in it. And which is why you deserve help. You deserve some support. Okay. So we've talked about a lot of the roadblocks and the challenges and the head rash. What do you, like as somebody is talking themselves out of it, kind of how do you help them get through it? Like talking about the ROI or like, how to get started. Like how do you help people who are like, yep, okay, I feel seen as far as the challenges. Any thoughts that you have for people that are, you talk them off the
I
ledge?
think the best advice is start small. I mean, we offer as few as 5 hours a week of support. I think the sweetest spot to start is in the 10 to 15 hour a week range, a little bit more than quarter time. But even if you're just starting really, really small, an hour a day, think of what you could do with an additional hour per day. And then as you get an EA, you feel confident in that EA, they know who you are, you can build from there. And that's our entire business model, is we know that things evolve and change. And so we think everybody in the world deserves an EA. Period. Everybody needs support and an assistant. And so we just want to make that as easy as possible for you to get started. And it's really easy to ramp up. And that's what we see is people that are nervous about getting started. We say, just start small. You get the confidence of working with an EA, and then they can kind of grow with you and grow with your account. We saw that happen with our very first customer almost 11 years ago, who's still a customer. And then now they've got all sorts of moving pieces, but we started just really, really small. And it's pretty risk-free because we're doing all of the work of finding the assistant for you. If things don't feel right, we can find you an assistant that does feel right. We do all the training and the onboarding. And so you do it. And if you really don't like it, you haven't signed your life away or hired a full-time employee or anything like that.
Right. Yes. And okay, so one of the things that I love that, speaking of start small, that you do is you do like a reset. So like a calendar reset or an inbox reset. What is that?
Yes. So this was actually a brilliant idea of one of our EAs a number of years ago. And it's this idea that if you're not ready for an EA, or maybe you truly don't have the budget for it quite yet, we can have a team of EAs kind of helicopter into your inbox, your calendar. We're building one for the cloud and all of the ephemeral bits that are floating around disorganized in the cloud. We helicopter in, we organize it, we automate it, we understand what's important to you, what's not important, and we get rid of the garbage, and then we just go back out. So it's not a long-term commitment. It's fantastic. It's a way to test out working with Base as well, if that's something you're interested in. And then also, when you are ready for an assistant, you already have some of those pieces in place. All of our incoming customers, they get all the resets. That's just part of our onboarding process. But you can kind of sample what it would be like to work with Base and a Base CA for pretty low cost and no risk.
Yeah, which I think is fantastic. I love it. And actually, at the end of this, so we're going to go through a few more things, but at the end of this session, if you're like, I want to do that reset, that sounds pretty great, we'll have a link to a landing page where you can like you're like signing up right there, where you can get more information. And there's a couple like deals because I mean it's end of year deal time. So what's the overview of that page?
Yeah, so right now we're having a BOGO, a buy one, get one free for reset. So if you want to buy a reset for yourself, you're also going to have one to give, which is a really, really great gift. We see them purchased for loved ones frequently. And so you can do that. You can give it
Coworkers.
to coworkers, your boss, your partner, your friend, whomever you'd like to give it to. No strings attached for them either. So we've got the BOGO right now. And then also, if you, after your reset, or if you just want to come in as one of our customers and work with a Base EA, you also get a reset to give away. And then if that person or anybody else that you refers become a customer, then we give you a whole bunch of free hours back on your account. I think it's $1,000 worth back on your account, as a thank you for bringing another customer to us. And so our hope is that these resets and the gift giving spirit through the end of the year will be a really good thing for everybody involved.
I think, I mean, it like just blows through all those like perceived roadblocks of like, well, I don't know where to start. Okay, well, here's where to start. Well, I can't really afford it. Well, this is really affordable. I don't have a long-term commitment. Well, this is like just a minimal little thing. And if you like it, you can keep going. And if you do keep going, you get all sorts of fun little goodies. So
the other thing too that I'll throw in, this is less common, but we still see it a good amount, is kind of one-time project support. Most frequently, it's someone comes to us and they're having a parental leave with an EA and they need somebody for a defined period of time. We also see for events, you need to staff up temporarily and kind of get like a all hands on deck situation. But also, if people are knowing they're entering a busy phase and they might want a little bit of support, you can kind of come on and say, okay, I'm going to do this for 3 months. So we both understand that going into it. The EA is prepared for that. And it can be a really, really great way to test out what it's like to work with an EA.
Yeah. And I think even just having the facilitator, the moderator, the intermediary of instead of going out and finding something, because that was always really daunting for me. It was like, okay, I'm so busy, I don't know what to look for. I'm just gonna go off the recommendation of somebody, and then I'm gonna have to train them, and I don't know what I don't know. But you come in and I get to work with you, and I get to work through you, and have somebody to go to if I'm like, I think I need to scale up, or I don't know if this is a great fit, or like this is just beginning, middle, end. Like I know that this is just a project-based thing, and I don't have to go through. There's just less on the shoulders of your clients because you're here.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. We've done it a few times, so we've seen what works and what doesn't. We try to make it as easy as possible.
Yeah. And you worked with like solopreneurs all the way on up to like Fortune 500, very large companies.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we do. It's just an EA that we find for you. And so we've got a really great talent pool of EAs. They're invite only. We're looking for the best talent that we can find. And then we do a pretty bespoke match. So yeah, it doesn't matter who you are. We can find you the right EA for you.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes. Okay. So we're going to get into, as a reminder, we're doing this for the next. So this is part 1 of 5. So same time, same place next Monday. And then we're recording all of these and they'll be available and you'll see it all over the interwebs because we'll be using them to promote. But before we go, some of the reminders. Yes, you deserve an EA regardless of whether you are running a Fortune 500 company or you're just getting started in a business yourself. There are lots and lots and lots of things that you can delegate, which we're going to talk about in a couple sessions, not next week, but the week after that. But what are some of the other things that you want to remind people that are skeptical that it's time for them to consider an EA?
Start small. If you have one takeaway from any of this, besides the fact that, of course, yes, you deserve an EA, is just start small. You don't have to jump in head first. There are lots of different ways for you to test the waters, and make sure that you're getting support that you can see the ROI. You feel the immediate lift and the results, and so you can get some pretty quick wins and validation on the investment that you're making into this partnership and this and in yourself too. You can start to really see. And just ask yourself, what could you do? What could you accomplish if you had more time? And that's what an EA will give you.
I love it. Okay, so I'm going to put into the chat, assuming that I can do that, a link to the page that we just mentioned, with the kind of the BOGO, or you can just sign up for more information. But in the meantime, if anyone who's here has any questions, go ahead and add them into the live chat, and I will be able to see them pop up, and we can go through those. This is the part where I get to remind myself where the chat goes. Here we go. All right. In the failed to post comment. Oh, just kidding. Okay. Well, it's not letting me post it to the LinkedIn Live, but that's okay. If you go to try one more time. Why? It's very silly. Okay, well, I'll be posting on LinkedIn right after because it doesn't want to let me share. I don't know if it's not letting me share a link on the LinkedIn's. So
I think maybe I shared it.
Okay.
We'll see.
We'll see. Yeah, it's funny. I'm trying to post it in LinkedIn, and
assistant can post it as a comment as well if it's not.
There we go. See, yet another way that you can get supported by a great EA. So, okay. Last chance for any questions. Otherwise, remember, Base is offering buy one, get one free of the resets. And then when you and the person that is so lucky that you give one to, if and when you become a client of Base, you get all sorts of different kickbacks. Yep. And Debbie posted a link to the landing page in the comments. And if you're watching this recorded, we'll make sure that it's there as well. So, all right. Join us next week and the following weeks as we get into some of the other details about how and why you, yes, you, can and should work with an EA and follow along as I do this for the first time too. It's going to be fun. So thank you so much, Paige. Thank you for convincing me. It only took 5 years. Hopefully it takes everybody here a lot less time. And
exactly.
We'll talk to you soon.
We'll see you in 5 years.
Okay. All right.